Dork in Disguise, Chapter 7. Okay, think cool, Jerry whispered to himself. He strutted onto the school grounds. He'd practiced his strut for a whole hour last night. At first, it had been awkward and not the least bit cool. Melissa had even asked him if he had a blister on his foot. But after the first half hour, he'd gotten the hang of it. The second half hour, he'd perfected it, so it looked as if he'd walked that way all his life. The only problem was that he had to warm up. If he stopped concentrating on his strut for an hour, he had to practice again for 2 or 3 minutes to get it just right. So this morning he warmed up in the upstairs hall, in front of the mirror. He strutted down the stairs for breakfast, swaggered back up to brush his teeth, then used his new self-confident gait down the sidewalk to school. He was warmed up now, dressed again in his ripped jeans and ready to show everyone his stuff. On the school grounds, he saw Cinnamon standing in a small group, talking to Robin. She glanced over at him and then watched as he strutted across the grass. He could sense his eyes. He could sense her eyes on him, as if her gaze had some tactile effect that he could feel right through his shirt. He spotted Craig Flatke talking with Tony and swaggered over to them. "Hi," Jerry said to them. He glanced around. Cinnamon had disappeared. "Hey, Flack," Craig said. "I was just telling Tony that Gabe's sick today." "He is? What's wrong with him?" "Too bad Gabe wouldn't see Jerry's strut till later." Craig laughed. "He's not really sick, stupid. He's just not coming to school. He told me yesterday that he was going to fool around at the park. Maybe we should cut out too," Tony said. "Yeah, but he didn't seem too enthusiastic." "If we're going," Craig said, "let's go now before any of the teachers see us." "You with us, Flack?" I don't know," Jerry said. He felt the panic rise in his chest. He wasn't about to play hooky with these guys. But how would he get out of it? "I figured you'd be the first to cut out, Flack," Craig said, looking disappointed. Jerry looked up to see a very blurry Miss Robertson slide up a classroom window on the second floor. He squinted and thought he saw her wave. He waved back. "Oh, too bad," he said, relief washing over him. "Miss Robertson just saw me. I guess I'll have to cut some other day." Craig shrugged. "Okay for you, Flack. I thought you were cool." "I have her too," Tony said. "I better stay." "Okay," Craig said. "I'm gonna go find Gabe." He ran off and disappeared around the side of the school. Tony turned to Jerry. "Too bad," he said. "It could have been fun. See ya, Flack." Jerry thought it might be his imagination, but Tony seemed a little bit relieved, too. "Yeah, see ya," Jerry said. Brenda appeared suddenly. "Craig and Gabe are such idiots," she said. Jerry looked at her, surprised. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah, I was standing right over there." "You sure you want to hang with those guys?" "I don't want to cut school," Jerry said, "or hang out with Craig, who's a jerk. But I do want to be cool, and I want Cinnamon to notice me." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Why don't you try something simple?" "Like what?" "Like being nice to her?" "I know it sounds crazy, but it just might work." "Yeah," Jerry said. "I hadn't thought of that." "I think you're ready," Brenda said. "I noticed you got the strut down." Jerry grinned. "I perfected it last night. Cinnamon was watching me a few minutes ago." "I noticed," Brenda said. The bell rang, and they headed toward the school with the rest of the kids. "Did you get the vacuum cleaner motor for the hovercraft last night?" Brenda asked. "Yeah, it'll work fine. My dad cut the board, too. I can't wait to see it work." Jerry and Brenda, caught in the middle of the crowd, slowed as the kids funneled through the school doors. Jerry's mind drifted back to what Brenda had said. She was right. He was ready to talk to Cinnamon. He felt a little more confident wearing his ripped jeans and walking with his cool gait. Maybe he could really get her to notice him by just being nice. The idea of talking to her made him sweat again. But he decided that it was time to make his move. Jerry got up, walked into the hall after language arts class, then he remembered his strut, and it took 10 steps before he got warmed up. "Hey, Jerry, are you okay?" Jerry looked up to see Chad Newsom. "What do you mean?" "You were walking funny," Chad said. "Do you have a stone in your shoe or something?" "Oh, no, I'm fine." Chad looked at him quizzically, but he smiled and moved on. Jerry spotted Cinnamon ahead in the hall getting a drink from the fountain. For once, she was alone. His heart began to race, but he remembered what Brenda had said and forced himself to swagger over to her. He leaned against the wall in a cool pose and watched her drink. She even looked beautiful drinking water. She held her red hair to the side so it wouldn't get wet. She saw him and straightened up. "Hi," he said. "Hi." She brushed a drop of water from her lips. It was only then that he realized he had no idea what he would say to her. She looked at him with her deep blue eyes, waiting for him to speak. "Is the water good?" he blurted. She laughed, assuming he was joking. "I'd like soda better." Jerry laughed too. "Soda in the water fountain. That's a great idea. Maybe you could patent it." Cinnamon laughed and looked at him with interest. "I hear you're great on rollerblades." "Oh, I wouldn't say that," he said. He thought he sounded very modest. "I'd like to see you skate sometime," she said. He shrugged. "Sure." "Have you gotten a band together here?" "A band?" "Yeah, you said you played in a band before you moved here." "Oh," Jerry said. "Yes, I did. You have a very good memory. What do you play?" His mind leaped back to some of the articles on rock music he'd studied this summer. "Guitar, lead guitar." Cinnamon smiled. "You must be good." "Oh, I wouldn't say that," he said again. "But our group was pretty good. We had a few good gigs last year, and we were going to record some songs, but then I had to move." No one listening would have any idea that Jerry had never held a guitar in his life. His research had really paid off. The lies were coming so easily, flowing effortlessly off his tongue, he was amazing himself. "What was the name of your band?" Cinnamon asked. "Midnight Sun." He'd thought of it so fast. "That's a good name. Do you write songs?" "We're mostly a cover band," he said. "But I wrote some of our songs. Our band won a competition with one of my compositions." "You wrote a song? What was it called?" His mind leaped again and landed on one of Melissa's favorite books. "Madeline?" Cinnamon smiled and tilted her head. "Is Madeline your girlfriend?" He shrugged and put on a sad face. "It's over now." Cinnamon's smile widened. "Maybe you'll write a song for someone else." "Maybe." The bell rang, startling them both. The hall around them was empty. Jerry hadn't even noticed that the kids had disappeared into classroom. "Second period's started already," Jerry said. Cinnamon squealed, and they both ran to Miss Robertson's room and flew in the door. The other kids giggled when he and Cinnamon returned together. There were even some oohs called out from the back. Jerry hardly noticed, though. His head was filled with thoughts of Cinnamon. Beautiful Cinnamon, who had talked to him and smiled and asked him questions about himself. She seemed awfully impressed with him. He let himself fantasize that maybe she was changing her mind about who her goal would be this year. It seemed totally impossible that beautiful Cinnamon O'Brien could have any interest in him, Jerry Flack the Dork. But stranger things have happened, and it was wonderful dreaming about it. He replayed his conversation with her in his mind and felt wonderful. A stray thought tugged at him. He pushed it away. not wanting anything to tarnish this moment of happiness after his terrific conversation with Cinnamon. But the thought came back and nagged at him and wouldn't leave him alone. He finally turned his mind toward the thought and gave it his grudging attention. Okay, so the lies were piling up fast. Jerry had gone hang gliding with his dog. He'd met Harry Styles. He was an expert skater. He played lead guitar in a band and wrote songs. His old girlfriend was named Madeline. Would he remember all the lies he told? Would that tangled web finally trip him up, so he'd fall flat on his face in front of the cool crowd? Jerry took a deep breath and slid down in his seat. He didn't feel so wonderful now. How could he keep his disguise in place? How long could he pretend? Jerry didn't know, but it was too late to turn back now. Maybe he'd better buy some more cool teen magazines on his way home. Maybe he just needed to study some more. And maybe he should keep a list of the lies so he would not forget. It sure was getting complicated.